flow like an animal. They try to say I'm a radical cause I'm cool like Barry Manilow. They be some cannibals doing rituals, it's magical. Taking money out your capital, yeah. Predatory loans taking out your...
Yo, what's good, Carnivore Aurelius, dude? I appreciate you spreading the good word about good health, etc. All right, I just want to fully explain because I'm just super annoyed today. I'm pretty hard to annoy, but I just don't like when people waste my time, and especially I like to do what I do and do my job, and I'm not allowed to. I can't even do my job because of Wi-Fi today. So it's like 2 days that I'm just like missing my own like schedule because I'm stuck here. But anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna just explain it in full because I'm like half explaining it, half saying things to people on my Facebook and YouTube, and people are getting the wrong idea. So I just want to walk you through the entire thing, and it's just like still annoying me. All right, so they booked me for the podcast, and they said that I could come on or Monday. Okay, so I was booked to go on Monday, and they booked the flights. I didn't explain this in my Facebook and YouTube, and I just want to be transparent because if I book my own flights, I seem like a dickhead. Like, what, you came late to a podcast, it's your fault. Yeah, if I drove or flew myself there, of course, it's my fault. I didn't choose the flight time. So they tell me like a couple days or like a week ago when they booked the flights, they booked it where I'm like flying out at like 2:30 up north, and I'm landing at like 4:30. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I landing so late? Even before the rain delays and the thunderstorm delays, I'm like, why are you guys cutting it so close? Like, what time? I didn't even know his podcast was at 8 p.m., but I'm like, what time do you film the podcast? Because I'm landing on the day of the podcast at 4:30 p.m. That already seems like a bad idea. So I'm not saying that fully, but I'm just like, when does the show start? And they're like, it starts at 8, and you got to be there by 6. And I'm like, shit, I don't cut things that close if I book it myself. So I'm like, that's kind of crazy. But whatever, I'm like, hopefully it works out and there's no delays. So, but always with the airport, like I try to be safe. So they booked the flight, not me. I can't drive myself to the studio. I don't even know where it is. They have a driver pick me up. They covered everything. So a couple days before, I'm seeing there's like a thunderstorm forming, and I'm like, shit, this is not looking good, but whatever, I don't really have another option. So I get stuck on the flight for like, there's a couple hour delay, and as I'm stuck on the flight, I'm texting Tim's teammate, not Tim. I'm just like, dang, I'm gonna be delayed. And like the message I was getting back, and maybe they didn't mean to do this, it could have been lost in translation, but like it just seems super douchey and condescending. Like I'm trying to make it on time, and they're kind of pretty much closing the door on me, being like, you don't make it by this time, you're not going to come in. And I'm like, I think I could catch the whole podcast. And they're like, maybe it's not meant to be. Like, we could try again in the future, but like, maybe it's just not meant to be. So I'm stuck on a plane for 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was. They booked the flight too late anyway. They were cutting it close even if it took off on time, because the studio is actually an hour away from the airport. So it's like they closed the doors early. They're getting me there, taking me to the studio. Anyway, so I'm like, can I come? Like, I can make, and then I'm like, I'm already taking off, so I'm about to land. It's like, 7:15, 7:20, and I'm like, the podcast starts at 8. So I'm like, I'm landing, I'm going to rush there. I can make it. Even on Monday, even though I was late, I didn't book my flight. They booked the flight. They cut it close. It was a couple hour delay, which was unfortunate, but I still got there on time, where I'm like, I don't even care. I don't need to be there for the entire podcast. I'll just come on for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It doesn't matter to me, dude. I don't need to be the star of the show. I've seen Tim's podcast. He's got 6 people. He's got like 4 regulars that just talk about the same stuff all the time and have like debates and stuff. That's cool. But I'm like, it's not this podcast. It's one-on-one. So it's like, can I make it to the studio? And they're basically just like, no. Well, this is what annoyed me first, is like, they didn't just say no. They're like, let me ask. So I know it's an option. Like, for certain people, they probably would have opened the door, but they're like, let me ask the guy who's filming. And they're like, okay, no, we can't open the door. So I'm locked out of my own podcast, that I was invited to, that I could have made at least half of it, at least, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, and then I'm like, as they're telling me, like, not like, hey, we're definitely going to book you in the future, we're so sorry this happened. They're treating me like I'm a piece of trash. Not Tim himself, but his team member. Like, basically, like, not like, oh, maybe that's unfortunate. Like, oh, maybe it's not meant to be. I guess we could try in the future, but like, maybe it's just not meant to be. I'm like, you booked the flight. It's not meant to be because you booked a close flight. And then this is a crazy part. To yesterday, I'm like, I'm being like, maybe the text got lost in translation. I'm trying to put it together. I'm like, next time I'll just pay for my own stuff and not cut it so close. But in general, then they're like, oh, someone else had a delay too, but they came a day earlier. And I'm like, why did you book them a day earlier and give them like hours to be delayed? But me, you gave a window of like nothing, even if the flight was on time, because it's an hour travel to the studio. Like, what? So that even made me more annoyed that there's other people that got delayed, but they had like a way bigger time frame. So I'm just like confused by it. So, and then I'm watching the podcast yesterday and there's 6 people on it and all the comments are complaining that Tim is debating with a regular about abortion, like pro and anti-abortion. And it's a regular that's on the show all the time. So I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere. I can't do my freaking podcast because my internet sucks. And I'm like, hey, can I come on today? I don't need to be the star of the show. Just give me this, guys, give me a microphone for 10 minutes or something. Dude, anything. Invite me to the studio or something. At least like meet me and apologize that I missed a podcast. Nothing, dude. So yeah, they said they'll maybe schedule in the future. They could schedule in the future. But it's like, as I'm being delayed, I'm like, I can make it on time. They lock me out of the studio. They're treating me like a condescending piece of trash, just like, oh, maybe, I guess it's just not meant to be. I mean, we could try in the future, but maybe it's just not meant to be. It's like, you booked the flight. You cut it close. That, and they said, I'm sorry. They're like, we don't know how to deal with this because it's never happened before. And I'm thinking to myself, there's never been a flight delay, or maybe there are flight delays. So you plan a little more ahead for other people. But for me, you cut it super close. I find it shockingly hard to believe that there's never been a flight delay of a couple hours. Like, that happens all the time at the airport. So it's like, for a lot of things that I do, I don't cut anything this close. I'm going to a conference today. I'm coming 2 days before. So it's like, and then it just annoyed me even more that I'm like, they're hitting me up like, oh, there were delays of this guy too, our guest for Tuesday, but we flew him a day early. So like the delays are okay. It's like, I don't know. There's a bunch of things that, someone said, Tim is not the boss. Why can't he address the issue himself? I don't know. Tell Tim he could call me. He could text me. He can message me. He can make it better. But I'm just annoyed. And this part is not his fault. But I'm annoyed that now I'm somewhere that I can't even do my job. Like, I can't do what I want to do. It's annoying. That part is not their fault. But cutting the flight so close was their fault. Locking the studio on me was not ideal. And then even yesterday, I mean, if it's a one-on-one podcast, in my opinion, if it's a one-on-one podcast, like, yeah, dude, I missed my go. But like, did you watch his show? Part of his show yesterday? He has like 6 people on. Bro, you got 6 people with 4 regulars who are on the show every day, all the time. You can't give me a microphone when I'm sitting in the middle of nowhere? It's like, you get what I'm saying? It just feels a little weird. And then I find out that the guy who was on yesterday was delayed too, but they gave him like a day, it's an hour away and we close the doors like an hour or 2 before and no one can get in. It's like, okay, then just lock me out of the podcast I'm supposed to be on and just text me condescending things. Oh, I got lost in translation. It's like, maybe it was just handled completely unprofessionally and not very, it almost just feels like, and I'm not trying to oversay it, but it almost just feels like they just didn't give a shit about me, which is fine. I don't care. It's not like I feel like I'm so special, but just don't waste my time then. Don't, book me a close flight. I'm running a few hours late because of that. And then it's like, oh, it's too late. It's too late. Sorry. It's too late. I'm like, I'm on the plane. Should I even come? Oh, it's too late. Sorry. I'm like, it's just annoying. Someone said, is it his fault a team's a representation of him? I'm not expecting it to be the most professional thing I've ever dealt with or anything. It's just like, I don't know. I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I could have came to the studio yesterday and it's like, I get it. It's not my day, but you let your friend and you debate about abortion and don't even let the guests talk. It's like, I guess that is what you need to do. You couldn't have given me a mic for 30 minutes. I don't know. I just find, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's how they deal. I just find it very hard to think that they would lock other people out if they were running late and just be like, let me talk to my camera guy. If you just said, hey, let me see if I could get you. Oh, no, sorry. We're going to lock you out. Sorry. We've decided to lock you out. But it's like, okay. Someone said when you have a staff, it should be professional. It is what it is. Someone said if it was James O'Keefe, they would make any accommodations necessary. Here's my last thing, though. I'm going to leave on this. even if it doesn't work out, even if there's a delay, even if you booked a flight that was close and you weren't planning for, even without a thunderstorm, flights get delayed by an hour or two. If I'm landing at 4:30, it takes an hour to get to a studio and you guys lock the doors early, that was never a good flight to book anyway. I could have came in a day early, 2 days early. I would have preferred to pay for it out of my own pocket because it's worth the money to just not have to deal with that. Like, I'm not a stingy person. I don't really care, but it's like that all happens. And as it's happening, here's the part that really irked me then and even after was like, if you explain to me like, hey, we apologize that happened. Maybe we shouldn't have booked it. So, we shouldn't have booked it so close versus like we can maybe book you in the future, but like maybe, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Like, to me, that just sounds like fuck off. Like, like I'm hassling them. I'm stuck on a plane and it's like, I mean, I guess we could book it in the future, but like, maybe it's just not meant to be. Like, you booked the flight close. And then I found out a day later that you're booking other people a full day before. That makes sense if you want to actually have someone on the show and you want to, not cut it in an hour of like 30 to 2 hours where you're going to lock them out of the studio. So it's like, that annoyed me. And then they're like, just treat it like a layover. And I'm like, it's not a layover. I'm here. You're debating about a regular with abortion for an hour and everyone in the comments are like annoyed. Like, dude, let your, like you got 6 microphones and you got a regular talking about stuff you talk about all the time. That's fine. I get it. It's your show. It's not mine. I don't get to dictate what happens. But it's like, if I'm just sitting in a hotel down the road, you could invite me to the studio and just speak to me in person and say, hey, maybe we could get you on the microphone for like 10 minutes at the end, 5 minutes, a minute. Maybe we can't get you on the microphone. We'll reschedule you in a couple months, but you can hang out and kick it with us and, do whatever or something versus just like, nah, sorry, dude, door's locked, and then I'm trying to do my own shit and I can't even get it working, but it's all good. That part's not their fault. Someone said, now we're going to have this beef go on forever. It's not a beef. It's not beefing. I'm just annoyed. I'll be over it once I get to where I need to be, but flights get canceled and delayed all the time. This is not like an unusual thing. You don't book somebody with like an hour window or else a lockout clause. You get what I'm saying? I didn't miss the show. I didn't miss the entire show. They booked me extremely close. I had a delay at the airport. I got in time to make over half of the show, and they locked me out of the podcast studio after asking if it was like, and then the next day I could have came to the next day show. I'm not asking to be the main guest, but you got 4 regulars all the time that you guys talk about very similar stuff all the time and then different topics. But it's like, you get what I'm saying? If I flew somebody out and paid for their stay and scheduled everything and I kind of, cut it close and there was a couple hour delay and then I locked them out of the studio, I think I would be like, yeah, just come through tomorrow. I mean, it's not like we do one-on-one podcasts. We have like 6 people just shooting the shit. Watch this podcast. They have 6 people. You can't give me one of the microphones for 20 minutes? You get what I'm saying? Like, it just seemed like the whole thing was just like, I'm like, someone said you totally missed the show. The security's insane. Now, I get it. I get the security stuff. I get that they have like, a bunch of stuff. And now I'm just extra annoyed too because of all of that stuff. I can't even do my job from today and yesterday. So it's like not only, now it's like a snowball effect where it's like it's cutting into like my entire workflow and everything. Someone said it seems a bit rude. It does seem a bit rude. And it's like, it seems very rude. Like, but it wasn't him directly. It's his team. When do I fly back home? I'm going to be going to the conference in Tampa. So I'm going to be at the conference in Tampa. Someone said, just wish you would have reached out to him before venting here. I don't know how to get in communication with him. I've never even spoken to him. So I would love to get a call or something, but I don't know what you want me to say. How am I going to talk to somebody that I've never talked to? Here's a way I could have talked to Tim. They could have invited me to the studio yesterday, even if they were so booked on the podcast that they just had to have a regular debate with Tim for an hour. We're so booked that we're we're so booked that we're going to let regulars who are on the show every day all the time and 6 people talk in circles for 40 minutes. Oh yeah, that sounds like super booked, you know? That they have a regular that they have all the time talking every day with Tim. So I could have talked to him in person if they would have invited me to the studio instead of locking me out. I could have talked to Tim in person if they would have let me do the podcast when I showed up. I have a very hard time. They could say that this is just their policy, and maybe it is, but I have a very hard time believing if they even semi-respected me as a human being, that they wouldn't have at least invited me to the studio and tried to make it right. I'm not an irrational person. I'm not a dickhead. If you just treat me with respect, I'll be like, dude, I don't even care if you can't film the next 4 months. I don't care. I don't care if you can never film with me. You get what I'm saying? It's like, just be real with me. I would respect somebody that says, we don't value you, we're cutting your flights close, we're locking the door on you, and we're not going to invite you tomorrow because we don't give a shit about you. I would respect them more if they said that to me, and I would have been like, just tell me that before I come, and you know, it's all good, because not everybody likes everybody, but just be honest. Don't not like me, you know, book me for something, and then just treat me like garbage when I arrive, like I'm just Andy's disposable toy. You know, just tell me you don't like me, or tell me you don't think I have a very hard time believing that if they're booking other people that they even semi-respect as a person, that they're going to do what they did to me and lock the door on it and then not invite me the next day to at least get 5 minutes on the microphone. Of course they would. If I ever invited Tim Pool somewhere and I had a podcast with 6 people on it where I have 4 regulars that we debate about abortion for an hour when it's not even like, you get what I'm saying? It's like, you think I wouldn't at least give him, like, reach out, say sorry, you know, give him the microphone for 10 minutes, 5 minutes on a 2-hour podcast? Of course, like, if you even semi-respect the person's time or value who they are, then it's like, yeah. But if you just don't give a shit about someone, you're just like, oh, treat it like a layover. Yeah, I guess it's not going to work out then. We booked the flight, but, you know, I guess it's just not meant to be since we cut it so close. And, yeah, sorry, we're booked for the next couple weeks, so, like, you can't even come. Like that, I highly doubt they would have treated people that they actually like or someone that they would consider high profile. I'm not asking to be high profile to them, but I'm just saying, just let me know where I stand before I come so you don't waste my time. Because I actually have a job and, you know, things to do as well. And then don't tell me that it's a layover for me, because that's condescending. That's like you lock me out of your podcast studio that I could have made 2/3 of, and then tell me to just treat it like a layover? You kidding me? That's low, super low. And it would have been, I understand security, but it could have been like interesting, because like, dude, I'm trying to get there. Even if I come for the last hour, I could have easily made it for at least the last hour, easily. Sometimes you don't even see the guest all the time, but in general, it's like, it would have been interesting. I come in, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, what a crazy day. I made it, you know? That would have been an interesting podcast, but it's like, we're booked for the 2 weeks. It's like, go through the comments of his show yesterday. It's like him and a regular, there's 6 people on the microphone, and it's like 2 people that are always on the show talking about abortion for 30 minutes. Like, can't get a mic? It's all good. Someone said, are you live? Facebook posted your live from yesterday like it was today. I can't stream right now. The internet's so janky here that I tried to go live 3 times. It didn't work. It's freezing. And it just annoyed me, because it's like, if I could have, and this is, I have to be honest, this is not their fault, this part of it. If it was just like, if I could do my work and use the internet, then it's like, whatever, I'll move on. But it's like, I can't move on because I'm not getting where I'm going. And there's a lot of cancellations. So yesterday my flight was also just rescheduled. It's all good. Someone said it makes sense you were their guest. Even if you can't have me on, there's a certain way it could have been handled. And every aspect of it just started like annoying me more and more. And maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But it's like, beforehand, I'm already thinking about, because I'm not getting that much info, so I'm asking for my info. I'm like, what time does the podcast even start? If you're flying me out and I'm landing at 4:30, like, I wasn't aware that it even started at 8 p.m., but I'm like, that's a late time to, like, I don't like to cut things that close. But when I'm not in control of the booking, you get what I'm saying? It's like, I can't really choose because I don't even know where the studio is. It's like a secret location. So I'm like, okay, so when does this thing start? Okay, this is the doors open. All right. I'm already thinking to myself, like, dude, I don't cut things that close, you know? I get that was an unfortunate situation, but things happen at airports. I don't know. I never cut things where it's like, if I don't get there for that hour, I'm screwed. Like, I try to avoid that as much as I possibly can because, you know, hour delays, 2 hour delays, these things happen all the time. So I don't cut things close. So they cut it close. Okay. Then there's a storm, right? I'm delayed. I'm texting them. At any moment, this could have went smoother just with like a, you know, like, dang, this sucks. And like, you know, this is how we're going to make it up. But like, they didn't say that. They didn't say like, it wasn't like, we're going to reschedule you for sure. It was like, I guess we could, it was like, this was the vibe I was getting. Like, I guess we could try it, but like, maybe it's just not meant to be. I'm stuck on a plane that they booked. And I'm like, this is what you're telling me now when I'm like rushing to get there, that like, oh, maybe it's just not meant to be. Like, go fuck yourself. Like, and I'm like, and then it's like, just treat it like a layover. And as this is all happening, I'm trying to get to the podcast where I'm like, I can make it. I might not make it right on time, but I can make it at some point, not out of my own fault for being late. Yes, there's a thunderstorm, but you booked the late flight, not me. So then apparently, I didn't even watch the show, but apparently then she goes on and says like, oh, he was trying to get here, but he's running late because you booked the flight. Yeah, there's a thunderstorm. It's unfortunate, but you booked a late flight anyway. Even with no thunderstorm, we're not cutting it like, we are cutting it close. And then I'm hearing, treat it like a layover. Excuse me? You know? And then I reach out yesterday to try to make things better. And, you know, because I'm like, I'll just reschedule it some other time and I'll pay for it. And then I hear, well, we had another guest and like he got delayed for a long time too. And like it was almost bad, but he came in a day earlier. And it's like, okay, why did you cut it? So like, if you would have cut it as close with him as you did with me, then he would have missed it too. I don't get why you couldn't give me like an 8-hour window or a day window or something. I don't know. So, and then I'm watching the show yesterday, and I'm just curious because I'm like, is it this super high profile guest that they're having on that's just so prolific that they don't have any time for me at all? Because if they would have came to me too and said, hey, Anomaly, like we missed somebody, you know, like say it was. It's like, I am me, so I can't really undo it. But it's like if it was someone else that I liked or someone else in general, even that I didn't know, and they said, hey, Anomaly, like, you're still going to be the main guest of the show. But like this guy, like, you know, we gave him a late flight. There was a thunderstorm. Like, we're going to give him one of the mics because we have 6 mics. I would have been like, totally cool. Like, I wouldn't have been like, no, it's my show. I would have been like, yeah, it's you know, it's Timcast in real life. There's always 6 people on a microphone. Like, I'm not expecting to even speak the whole time when I'm there. Because of that. You get what I'm saying? So I'm watching the show yesterday, and it's like he's got literally 4 regulars on the microphone, and the regulars are just like talking the majority of the time anyway. So I'm like, it's you know, they don't have a show that's only one-on-one. So that's why I'm like, I'm still here. Can I come today? No. Like, I'm here yesterday. Can I come to the podcast I was booked for? No, we locked you out. Sorry, like it's too late. I can make over half the show. It's too late. I didn't book my flight. You did. If I would have booked it, then yeah, I've fucked up. But I don't fuck up because I don't book things an hour before. I don't book things that close. And if I do, it's my own fault. But if you do, it's your fault. So, I can't even do it. I want to move on and do my job, but I can't do it. I should be able to tomorrow though. We'll see how my new Wi-Fi is. Someone said unprofessional and douchey for sure. Am I wrong? Like, I want you guys to tell me, because if anybody watches the show, to make things better, they easily could have said, hey, Anomaly, come through tomorrow and we'll give you 5 minutes on the microphone. 5 minutes. Bro, they have a 2-hour podcast where they have 6 people, 4 of which who are there every day who easily could sit out. It's happened before. My friends who watch the show more are like, dude, there's been times where a regular sits out because someone else was there. Oh, but they don't have 2 people at once. Yeah, they do. They had Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey at once. And those are high-profile people who deserve their own show, who were squeezed together. You get what I'm saying? If they had a one-on-one show, yeah, it is what it is. They got a 6-person show with 4 regulars who could easily sit out at any time and let me come to the studio yesterday. I was there yesterday. It's a dick move. I'm not trying to infringe on someone else's podcast. If it's a one-on-one Lex Friedman sit down or Joe Rogan sit down, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But it's a 6-person podcast where they have 4 regulars who at any point could sit out and they could have multiple people. This is what's ticking me off about it. It's just like, I'm here. And they're like, sorry, we locked you out. And I'm like, I'm here. I landed way before 8. I could have got there for at least half of the podcast. They locked me the fuck out for a flight that they booked. It's annoying. And now I can't even do my own shit because the Wi-Fi sucks. That's not their fault, but it's all good. Someone said nobody would miss Ian for a night. Listen, I'm not trying to knock his co-host, but there have been times where people have sat out. You know what I'm saying? They have co-hosts every night all the time. Easily, someone, the comments are all even complaining. They're like, dude, can you let your guests talk a little bit? You guys just argued in circles about abortion. Someone said they did you so dirty. I think so too. And I'm not over it because I can't move on because I'm not gone yet. Once I leave here and I can get Wi-Fi again, I'll move on. I got other shit to do. It's not the end of my world, but it's like I'm addressing the situation. It's annoying. Someone said you can use my Wi-Fi. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Someone said, yeah, we get it. It's annoying and sounds professional. And I'm not trying to harp on it, but it's like I literally can't even live stream today. I'm trying to live stream. My shit's freezing, and I'm like, this is so annoying. But in general, I wanted to let people know because I realized on my podcast yesterday, I didn't explain at the beginning, I didn't book my flight. If I would have booked my own travel plans, then it's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. I didn't book them. I'm not even allowed to book. I could have even gotten they have a special driver and stuff. Because it's like an undisclosed location because they always get swatted and stuff. I get that. I totally get the security and stuff. But if you just say, no, this is it's like, let me ask. Oh, no. We asked. Sorry, we're locking you out. Yeah, I highly doubt they would have locked somebody else out. Sorry. That's just how I feel. Someone said you have to address it, and talking about it is how you can resolve your emotions. I mean, I'm not really emotional. I'm just annoyed. But maybe that is an emotion. I don't know. On a spectrum of emotion, I feel pander. I feel like a panda bear. That's my new identity. Someone said they opened the Capitol, opened the studio. Bro, am I tripping or am I tripping? Sorry, we're fully booked. You're fully booked with 2 regulars debating about abortion on 6 microphones. That's fully booked. Come on, bro. They run a podcast like the Nelk Boys. The Nelk Boys, sometimes they got 8 people, sometimes they got 6 people, they got 5 people. And I'm not saying Tim Cass is the Nelk Boys because they're not, but when the Nelk Boys do a podcast, dude, sometimes their guest walks in 30 minutes into the podcast. So I'm thinking to myself, yo, I could just walk in 30 minutes into the podcast. I know Tim's not the Nelk Boys, but the Nelk Boys, they have on high profile people and they start without them all the time. So I'm like, your driver's driving me to Timcast. It's not like I'm driving with an undisclosed guy. It's your guy bringing me to the studio. You can't let me in? Bullshit. You can't have me on today or yesterday? Bullshit. We're booked with six people, 4 regulars. I don't fucking buy it. Sorry. I'm not buying it. And that's just what I want. Just tell me the truth. The truth, when you get past all the layers, what the truth is, they probably don't like or care about me that much. Half of them probably don't even know who I am, so they don't even care. It's not like somebody that they're excited about having on. They're probably just like, whatever, he did a Tim Pool rap line or whatever. And then it's like I get in and, they booked such a super tight window, probably because they don't give a shit about me, to the point where it's like I'm running late and they're just like, lock the door out. Like, fuck out of my face. Sorry. Someone said Dana White walked in late on Logan's show. Everyone does it all the time. That's what I'm saying, bro. They played me. I'm sorry. I'm over it, but I'm not over it. I'm not, you know, I was a little too nice about it the other day. I'm like, maybe it was just, I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, it wasn't just one thing. I'm not that sensitive. It's like, it was like 8 things. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I'm like, yo, don't do that. Someone said he's had several guests run in late. That's what I'm saying though. I've seen his fucking shit where people come in late and they leave early. Like, I've seen it happen before. So it's like, I'm not buying it, bro. I'm not fucking buying it. I'm not some pushover. I'm not Andy's little rag doll. Like, sorry, Anomaly, we don't want to play with you anymore. And they just throw me in the trash. And I'm like, ooh. They thought it was Toy Story 7, you know, Tim Pool edition. Like, I'm just laying in the trash and I'm just like, ooh. I'm like, can I open the doors? They're like, sorry, Anomaly doll, we don't want to play with you anymore. You know, like, that's the vibe I was getting the whole time. I'm like, I'm trying to make it. They were like, sorry, doors closed. I'm like, I didn't even take off yet. What are you talking about? I'm gonna land. I could come for at least an hour and a half or an hour. You know what I'm saying? At least an hour. Sorry, Anomaly, we don't want to play with you anymore. And I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, I'm chilling and I'm like, I'm on the plane and I'm like, dang. And they're like, we could. I guess we could try again in the future, but like, maybe it's just not meant to be. I didn't book my flight. You booked it. Just treat it like a layover. It's not a layover. I'm sitting here in the middle of fucking nowhere that I don't want to be because I tried to be on your podcast. And I'm like, can I come on Tuesday? We're booked. You're booked with a 7-person podcast you and 4, you know, regulars with you and your friend debating about abortion. Like, that's 2 booked, bro. A 6-person podcast when 4 regulars can sit out at any time. You know what I'm saying? If I'm a regular on Tim Pool's podcast and I'm there every episode, you think I would care if they said, hey, you know, we booked Anomaly and we fucked up / there was a thunderstorm. Like, do you mind sitting out even for 30 minutes, dude? I'm not asking for a fucking manifesto. Like, I realize that it's a multi-person podcast. Even if I only talk for 10 minutes, I had no expectations. My only expectations were that I wasn't going to get locked out of my own podcast and that they were, you get what I'm saying? And if something happened, that they would like maybe try to, you know, do something that made me feel like you get what I'm saying? Like, oh, like, dang. Someone said, plus the 2 guests they had already been on the podcast multiple times. That's what I'm saying, dude. They fucking played me. I don't know that much, but yeah, those guests that were on last night, have they been on multiple times? It's like a fucking reunion show with 7 people. It's like, dude, God forbid I come through and make this shit interesting. You know what I'm saying? And bring some fucking energy, some fucking muscles, some fucking health, you know? Like, let's do some jumping. I'm just kidding. Now they're going to really hate me. They're like, oh, what a dickhead. I mean, I'm like, I'm just joking. But someone said the guests were boring. You would have been so much better. Like, I'm not trying to rag on his guests because then I'm really burning the bridge. But it's like, come on. Someone said this seems like Ian did it. To be honest, I'm not gonna start blaming other people that I've never talked to. So I'm not gonna blame him. I don't even know him, you know. But to me, they did me wrong, and I'm gonna speak my shit about it. All right, I'm gonna take off, folks, and you know, if they want to reach out and just like explain what it was, it's all gravy. We've almost worked it out, but like every time we almost worked it out, I'm just like. They're like, oh, dude, you're not the only, like, this is the only time this has ever happened. It's the only time this has ever happened? Really? No one's ever had a slight delay on a flight you booked? And they're like, oh, well, I mean, we did have a delay with our guest today, but, like, we gave him a huge window of time just in case something happened. But for you, it's like, your window's like this fucking razor thin where you can even come, but you can't come. It's like, all right, yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, folks, 3 of my songs got removed from Spotify as well. Would have been nice to talk about on a major platform, a hip-hop artist that's having his songs removed off of Spotify. I mean, you could talk about all sorts of crazy crap, like they talk about murder, drugs, like creepy, weirdo stuff all the time, just brainwashing the kids with big pharma pill popping and, you know what I'm saying, murder music for the streets so people kill each other. Apparently that's totally like nothing happens there, but mysteriously 3 of my songs disappear off Spotify USA. If you're in another country, you could still listen to it, but I'm working on it. Spotify says it's not them, it's TuneCore, and I'm like, why did you remove my songs? Like, what's going on? So we'll get to the bottom of that, but we'll see what happens. Someone said you and Bryson both. Bryson's the OG, man. He's been, I don't know if he's still in the podcast and he's still in the stream, but Bryson gets his songs banned more often than anybody. With mine, we'll see what happens. It seems more like a TuneCore issue than it is a Spotify issue, because I'm getting to the bottom of it, but they're still available in other countries. But it's very bizarre. It's like, it's another one of those things where it's like, it could be a random mistake, but luckily I don't make that much money off my music. Like, are you going to make that random mistake with some of your, you get what I'm saying? Like, if they made that mistake with everybody, they would be losing millions of dollars daily from streams. So I'm trying to figure out why they made a mistake with mysteriously, 3 of my more controversial songs. But it's all good. God bless you guys. I appreciate it. That's my point of view. It's not perfect. I am a human. I understand I have faults, etc. But I don't know. Shit's just not sitting right with me, and I wanted to talk about it. So that's what it is. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.